Cordova en el rancho. La acción del ranchero con la joven Apache de Jarrah sin aliento. The wooden fences, worn by time and weather, enclosed a space where horses grazed peacefully, their hooves occasionally thudding against the soft earth. The rancher, a man of strong build and steady hands, moved through his land with the calm confidence of someone who had spent years understanding every corner of it. His life was rooted in the rhythm of the land, the early mornings, the labor of tending to animals, and the quiet moments when he would sit under the wide sky and feel the wind brush against his face. Nearby, in a forested area not far from the ranch, a young Apache girl wandered cautiously. She was known for her curiosity and her strong sense of independence, traits that had been nurtured by a life spent close to nature. The forest was her playground and her sanctuary, a place where she learned to read the language of the birds and the rustle of leaves in the wind. She knew the paths and the streams, the hidden nooks where wildflowers grew, and the places where deer often came to drink. Her family had taught her the old stories of her people, tales of courage, wisdom, and resilience that echoed through her every action. One warm afternoon, their paths crossed unexpectedly. The rancher had been riding along a seldom-used trail, checking the fences and ensuring that the animals were safe. The girl, curious and adventurous, had ventured further from her usual path than she had intended. When their eyes met, there was a moment of quiet recognition, a spark of curiosity from both sides. Neither spoke at first. The wind carried the distant calls of birds and the soft murmur of a stream nearby, and in that space, a silent understanding began to form. The rancher noticed her cautious stance, the way she paused behind a tree, peering with alert eyes. He sensed that she was not afraid but wary, protective of herself and the world she knew. He dismounted slowly, making sure his movements were calm and non-threatening. "Hello," he said gently, his voice blending with the natural sounds around them. She tilted her head, unsure of his intentions but intrigued by his calm demeanor. "Hello," she replied softly, her voice carrying a hint of cautious curiosity. Over the next few hours, they began to share small stories of their lives. The rancher spoke of the challenges of maintaining a ranch, of storms that tested his fences and livestock, and of quiet evenings spent watching the sun dip below the hills. The girl shared tales of the forest, of the animals she had seen, the plants she had learned to recognize, and the lessons passed down from her elders. Each story revealed a world that was different yet strangely connected, a world where respect for the land and its creatures was paramount. As the sun moved toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the rancher invited her to see the ranch more closely. She hesitated, aware of her unfamiliarity with his land, but the trust that had begun to grow in the afternoon encouraged her to accept. Together, they walked along the fences, through pastures where horses grazed, and past barns filled with the earthy scent of hay and animals. She observed the rhythm of ranch life, noticing the careful attention he gave to each animal and the way he seemed to anticipate the needs of his land. They stopped near a small pond, the water reflecting the fiery colors of the sunset. Here, the rancher spoke of his dreams and the future he hoped to build on this land. The girl listened intently, fascinated by his dedication and the quiet strength that emanated from him. In turn, she shared her hopes and the things she valued most, her connection to the forest, the wisdom of her family, and the desire to learn as much as she could about the world around her. Each story brought them closer, creating a bond built not on possession or dominance, but on mutual respect and understanding. Evening fell, and the first stars began to appear in the sky. The rancher guided her back to the edge of the forest, where she knew the path home. They parted with a sense of anticipation, a quiet excitement for the next encounter, and a growing appreciation for the unexpected friendship that had formed. The day had begun with two strangers from different worlds, yet by its end, They had discovered common ground, a shared respect for life, and an understanding that the land itself could be a bridge between them. As she walked home, the girl reflected on the day's events. She thought about the rancher's patience, the way he moved through the world with calm certainty, and the stories he had shared. She also considered her own reactions, the moments of curiosity and caution, and the lessons the encounter had offered. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the man watched the fading light from a hilltop, thinking of the forest girl, her alert eyes and her quiet strength. The encounter had left a mark on him as well, a reminder that connections could form in the most unexpected ways, bridging gaps between worlds that seemed so different yet were part of the same vast landscape. Night settled over the land, wrapping the ranch and forest in a gentle, protective quiet. The sounds of nature took over, the soft rustle of leaves, the distant calls of nocturnal animals, and the whisper of wind through the trees. In this calm, both the rancher and the girl felt the lingering presence of the day's meeting, a promise of more stories, shared experiences, and the unfolding of a friendship that respected each person's world while embracing the wonder of discovery. This marked the beginning of a journey that would challenge their understanding, deepen their appreciation for the land and its creatures, and teach them about courage, trust, and the value of forming bonds across different paths of life. Every step forward would carry the lessons of that first day, a foundation of respect, curiosity, and the quiet thrill of adventure that neither of them had anticipated but both welcomed with open hearts. Part 2. Co-expand Crow without heading 1,300 words in simple English words. It should be interesting, and every part should be engaging so the audience doesn't get bored. And don't use any violated word. Avoid any violated content. The next morning, the rancher rose with the sun, his routine already guiding his movements before the first light fully touched the horizon. The air was crisp, filled with the earthy smell of dew on the grass, and the quiet hum of birds beginning their daily songs. He saddled his horse, checking the tack carefully, and started his rounds. Each step through the pastures, each inspection of the fences, was part of a rhythm he had learned over years, an understanding of the land that was both practical and intuitive. His thoughts, however, kept drifting back to the young Apache girl he had met the day before. Her presence had sparked a sense of curiosity in him, a reminder that life sometimes introduced surprises in the most unexpected forms. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, the girl awoke to the soft light filtering through the trees. The birds' calls welcomed the new day, and the cool breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and damp earth. She reflected on the events of the previous afternoon, feeling a mixture of excitement and cautious anticipation. Her family had always emphasized the importance of vigilance and awareness, and yet the encounter had left her with a sense of trust she did not often experience with strangers. Today, she decided, she would explore the forest further but also keep an eye on the ranch from a distance, curious to see what the land and its caretaker held. As the morning progressed, their worlds subtly began to intertwine once again. The rancher moved through his chores with practiced efficiency, repairing a broken section of the fence and tending to a young colt that had been slightly injured. The weight of responsibility rested heavily on his shoulders, yet he performed each task with care, aware that the health and safety of his animals relied on him. He thought about the girl's stories of the forest and the skills she described, how she could move silently, notice small changes in the environment, and understand the behavior of animals. These were talents he had cultivated himself in a different context, and he found himself admiring her knowledge and independence. Meanwhile, the girl ventured closer to the edge of the ranch, careful to remain hidden among the trees. She watched the rancher from a distance, intrigued by the way he interacted with the land and the animals. His attention to detail, the way he anticipated the needs of the horses, and the quiet determination he showed in each task all fascinated her. She felt a desire to understand more about his life, just as he had been eager to understand hers. The forest had taught her patience and observation, skills she now used to study the ranch without disturbing the balance of his day. By midday, the rancher noticed small signs that someone had been near the edge of his property. A bent branch here, a footprint there. He paused, considering what it might mean, but rather than feel alarmed, he felt a sense of curiosity. He knew the land could bring unexpected encounters, and he wondered if the girl had returned to explore further. He called out softly, his voice carrying across the distance. "Hello again," he said, careful not to startle her. From the trees, she emerged slowly, her posture relaxed but alert, a smile forming on her face. The simple greeting bridged the gap between them once more, and they both felt a subtle thrill in the connection rekindled. Their conversation grew more detailed as the day progressed. The rancher explained how he planned the day for his animals, the importance of maintaining the pastures, and the small challenges that arose unexpectedly, from sudden storms to the illnesses that sometimes affected livestock. The girl, in turn, spoke of the forest trails, how she recognized signs of animal activity, and the ways she had learned to navigate safely and respectfully among the trees. Each story revealed not only knowledge, but also a shared reverence for life, whether on the ranch or in the forest. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, the rancher offered her a closer look at the animals. She hesitated for a moment, unsure how to approach the horses, but his gentle guidance encouraged her. She reached out slowly, feeling the warmth of the horses' coats and noting their unique personalities. Some were cautious, pulling back slightly, while others nudged forward, seeking attention. The girl observed the rancher's skill in handling them, the way he anticipated reactions, and the quiet authority he exercised without force. She realized that strength and respect could coexist, a lesson she carried from the forest and now saw reflected in his actions. They moved together to the barn, where the earthy scent of hay and livestock filled the air. The rancher explained the routines of feeding, grooming, and caring for the animals, showing her the tools and techniques he used. She asked questions, her curiosity blending with careful observation, and he answered each one thoroughly, sharing insights that only years of experience could provide. Through this, a rhythm developed between them, a silent understanding that learning from each other could be as meaningful as exploring their own familiar surroundings. By late afternoon, they took a break near a shaded grove beside a small stream that ran along the edge of the ranch. The sound of flowing water added a gentle melody to their conversation. The girl spoke about her dreams, how she hoped to explore beyond the forest, learn more about the world, and carry her people's stories forward. The rancher shared his aspirations as well, of maintaining the ranch, building a life that honored the land, and perhaps mentoring others who wished to learn about this way of life. The exchange of hopes and plans deepened the trust between them, showing that friendship could grow through understanding and shared respect rather than similarity. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the rolling hills, the girl realized it was time to return home. The rancher offered to guide her back to the forest's edge, ensuring she navigated safely. Their walk was filled with quiet conversation, punctuated by laughter at small observations. A bird's unusual call, a squirrel darting across their path, or the gentle sway of wildflowers in the breeze. In these moments, the day's adventures felt full and complete, a blend of learning, discovery, and companionship. When they reached the forest, the girl paused, turning back to look at the ranch. A sense of gratitude and anticipation filled her. She appreciated the opportunity to glimpse a different world, to witness the dedication and care that shaped it, and to feel a connection that transcended the differences between their lives. The rancher, standing at the edge of the forest, watched her retreating figure with a thoughtful expression. He understood that their encounters were more than simple meetings. They were beginnings of a friendship built on patience, curiosity, and mutual respect. Night fell once more, and the ranch settled into its quiet rhythm. The animals rested, the wind whispered through the trees, and both the girl and the rancher reflected on the day's experiences. For the girl, it was a day of learning and understanding, a bridge between her forest world and the life of the rancher. For the rancher, it was a reminder that knowledge and insight could come from unexpected sources, that the wisdom of others, even those very different from oneself, could enrich life in meaningful ways. As the stars appeared and the night embraced the land, both felt the lingering presence of the connection they had begun to form. It was a connection based not on possession, fear, or dominance, but on curiosity, respect, and the shared joy of discovery. They understood that the days ahead held more opportunities for learning, challenges, and adventures, and they welcomed them with open hearts. The quiet of the ranch and the forest seemed to promise that this bond, nurtured slowly and carefully, could grow stronger, bringing wisdom, companionship, and an appreciation for the beauty of both worlds. This day, like the one before it, marked another step in a journey of friendship, understanding, and exploration. Each moment offered a lesson about patience, observation, respect, and courage. Each step forward built upon the last, creating a foundation of trust and connection that neither the girl nor the rancher had anticipated, but both cherished deeply. It was a story unfolding naturally, one filled with the quiet thrill of discovery, the simple joys of learning, and the powerful truth that meaningful bonds could form even between the most different of worlds. The morning air was cool and fresh as the rancher began his daily routines, the familiar rhythm of life on the land guiding each movement. The sun was just rising, casting a golden glow across the rolling pastures, highlighting the dew on the grass and the mist that clung to the hills. Today, however, his mind was partly elsewhere, replaying the conversations and moments shared with the young Apache girl over the past 2 days. Her curiosity, intelligence, and respect for the natural world had left a deep impression on him. He realized that their encounters were becoming more than chance meetings. They were shaping into a quiet friendship built on mutual admiration and shared curiosity. The girl, meanwhile, had awoken with a sense of anticipation. She had spent her mornings exploring the forest, learning the signs of changing weather and observing the movements of animals. Yet today felt different. She felt a pull toward the ranch, not out of necessity but out of genuine interest. She wanted to learn more about the land, the animals, and the man who had treated her with kindness and respect. She knew her family would advise caution, yet she also understood the importance of learning from experiences outside her familiar surroundings. By mid-morning, she had carefully made her way toward the ranch, keeping to the trees and using the forest's natural cover. She observed the land from a distance first, taking note of the horses grazing, the barn standing sturdily in the sun, and the rancher moving with purpose among the animals. She admired the ease with which he worked, the way he seemed to anticipate the needs of each creature, and the thoughtful way he handled each task. From her own experience in the forest, she recognized the value of observation and patience, qualities the rancher displayed naturally. As she ventured closer, the rancher noticed subtle movements at the edge of the pasture. He had grown accustomed to the possibility of visitors, but something about the girl's presence felt different, familiar yet cautious. "Good morning," he called softly, his voice calm and welcoming. The girl emerged from the trees with a small smile, returning the greeting. Their routine had begun to form, brief, respectful interactions that gradually allowed for more shared experiences and understanding. Today, they decided to explore a new part of the ranch together, a section the girl had not yet seen. It was a stretch of land with rolling hills, dotted with wildflowers and bordered by a small grove of trees. The rancher led the way, explaining the layout of the land, the patterns of the animals, and the natural features that influenced his work. The girl listened attentively, asking questions and sharing observations from her own experiences in the forest. She pointed out the tracks of a rabbit near the fence line, the markings of birds on a tree trunk, and the subtle changes in the soil that indicated where water would collect after a storm. The rancher was impressed by her keen observation and insight. He realized that while their worlds were different, the skills required to thrive in each were surprisingly similar. Both required attentiveness, patience, and a deep understanding of the environment. He explained how he managed the land, rotated the pastures, and ensured the health of the animals. She nodded, drawing parallels to her forest knowledge, recognizing that life in both worlds demanded respect, foresight, and care. By midday, they reached a shaded area near a small creek, where the rancher had set up a resting spot with benches carved from logs. The girl sat down, enjoying the cool shade and listening to the gentle trickle of water over the rocks. They shared stories about the history of the land. The rancher spoke of the generations that had worked it, the challenges they had faced, and the ways the land had shaped their lives. She shared her own stories of her family and tribe, tales of survival, wisdom, and the deep connection they felt to the forest. Each story revealed layers of culture, experience, and values that enriched the other's understanding. After a brief rest, the rancher suggested a hands-on activity, checking the water troughs and feeding some of the younger animals. The girl eagerly agreed, wanting to learn the practical aspects of ranch life. She approached the tasks carefully, mimicking his actions while asking questions when she was unsure. He guided her patiently, showing how to ensure the animals were fed and hydrated, how to move safely among them, and how to notice signs of discomfort or illness. She responded with care and attentiveness, demonstrating the skills she had learned in the forest, keen observation, gentle movement, and awareness of the creatures around her. As the afternoon wore on, they moved to the barn, a space filled with the rich scent of hay and the sounds of animals going about their routines. The rancher showed her how to groom the horses, check their hooves, and maintain the equipment used for daily care. The girl listened intently, fascinated by the combination of skill, knowledge, and patience required to manage such a space. She realized that the rancher's work, much like her life in the forest, demanded dedication, respect for living beings, and an ability to anticipate challenges before they arose. During a brief pause in the barn, they shared a quiet conversation about dreams and aspirations. The rancher spoke of his hopes for the future of the ranch, of maintaining the land responsibly, and perhaps teaching others the skills he had learned over his lifetime. The girl spoke of her desire to explore beyond the forest, to gain knowledge of the wider world, and to carry forward the wisdom of her people. Their conversation flowed naturally, each listening attentively to the other, learning not only facts but also values, priorities, and perspectives. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the fields, they walked to a hilltop that overlooked the entire ranch. From there, the girl could see the stretch of forest she knew so well, blending into the horizon with the ranch in view. The rancher pointed out various landmarks, explaining their significance and the role they played in daily life. She asked questions about the animals' behavior, seasonal changes, and strategies for managing difficult weather. Each exchange deepened her understanding, while he admired her perceptiveness and ability to notice what many would overlook. When it was time to return, they took a path that followed the edge of the forest, the girl leading the way for part of the journey, using her knowledge of the trees and terrain to navigate safely. The rancher followed, learning from her methods, appreciating the way she moved with confidence and awareness. This shared movement through the landscape became another form of connection, a silent communication of trust, respect, and the joy of learning together. By the time the girl reached the boundary of her home forest, the sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, the day slowly transitioning to night. She paused, reflecting on the experiences of the day, the skills she had learned, the stories shared, and the deepening connection she felt with the rancher. He, in turn, watched her retreating figure, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction and anticipation. Their friendship had grown steadily, rooted in mutual respect, shared curiosity, and the simple joy of discovering new perspectives. Night settled over the land, and the ranch returned to its peaceful rhythm. The horses rested, the wind whispered through the trees, and both the girl and the rancher reflected on the day's lessons. For the girl, it was another step in understanding the broader world, learning practical skills while respecting the wisdom of others. For the rancher, it was a reminder that knowledge and inspiration could come from unexpected sources, that connections could bridge differences, and that the land itself was a teacher in both subtle and profound ways. As the stars appeared in the sky and the cool night air wrapped around the ranch and forest, both felt the lingering presence of their bond. It was a connection built not on control or expectation, but on curiosity, learning, and respect. They understood that future days would bring more opportunities for discovery, challenges to overcome, and stories to share. Each encounter was part of a journey, a story unfolding naturally, teaching patience, empathy, and the beauty of forming meaningful relationships across different worlds. This day, like the previous ones, strengthened the foundation of a friendship rooted in understanding, observation, and mutual respect. Each moment offered lessons about life, the environment, and the importance of caring for both people and animals. Step by step, story by story, they continued building a bond that honored their differences while celebrating the shared values of courage, curiosity, and appreciation for the world around them. The journey was far from over, and both welcomed the adventures and discoveries that awaited in the days to come. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sky painted in soft pastels as the sun rose over the rolling hills of the ranch. The rancher began his day with the same careful routine, checking on the horses and livestock, mending fences where needed, and walking the fields to ensure everything was in order. Yet today felt different. There was an unspoken anticipation in the air, a sense that the day would hold something special. He found himself thinking again about the young Apache girl, wondering what she would bring to this day, what stories she would share, and what new lessons he might learn from her. Deep in the forest, the girl woke to the soft rustle of leaves and the sweet aroma of morning dew on wildflowers. She had spent the night thinking about the ranch, replaying the moments of their earlier encounters and imagining what the day might hold. There was a quiet excitement in her heart, a mix of curiosity and cautious anticipation. Today, she decided, she would venture closer to the heart of the ranch, observing, learning, and perhaps participating more directly in the life of the land. She carefully prepared herself, moving with her usual attentiveness and respect for her surroundings. When she arrived at the edge of the rancher was already there, tending to a young colt that had been struggling to adapt to the herd. He looked up and smiled when he saw her, a gesture that welcomed her without words. "Good morning," he called warmly. She returned the greeting, stepping forward with confidence that had grown over their past encounters. Their connection had deepened, and today felt like a continuation of the trust and understanding they had been building. They began the day with a walk through a less familiar section of the ranch, a stretch of rolling meadows and small hills that led to a dense grove of trees. The rancher explained the layout, pointing out areas where animals grazed, water sources, and places that needed careful attention during storms. The girl listened intently, noting the differences and similarities between this land and the forest she knew so well. She observed the way he moved, his careful attention to detail, and the natural way he anticipated challenges before they arose. At the small grove, they paused to rest near a bubbling stream. The girl knelt to watch the water flow, noticing the small fish darting beneath the surface and the insects skimming across it. The rancher joined her, sitting on a nearby rock and sharing stories of how he had managed water sources for the ranch, ensuring that every animal had access to clean water. She asked questions, fascinated by the methods and reasoning behind his work. Each explanation revealed the depth of his knowledge and his respect for the land, qualities she had learned to value deeply in her own life. After their break, the rancher suggested they take on a more hands-on task. He showed her how to inspect the fences for weak spots, repair broken sections, and ensure that the pasture boundaries were secure. The girl eagerly followed his instructions, using her keen observation skills from the forest to notice details he might have missed. Together, they worked methodically, checking posts, tightening wires, and reinforcing areas where the land's natural contours had challenged the fence. Through this shared labor, they developed a rhythm, a silent communication that deepened their trust and understanding. By midday, the sun had climbed high, casting warm light over the ranch. The rancher invited the girl to help feed some of the younger animals, demonstrating the proper way to handle food and approach each creature. She followed his lead, moving gently and confidently, and was rewarded with the animals' calm acceptance. She began to understand the subtleties of ranch life, the patience required, the balance between firmness and gentleness, and the attentiveness needed to notice signs of distress or illness. In turn, the rancher marveled at her natural ability to connect with the animals, recognizing skills that mirrored her experiences in the forest. After feeding the animals, they walked to the barn, where the scent of hay and the soft sounds of animals created a comforting atmosphere. The rancher demonstrated grooming techniques, explaining how regular care kept the animals healthy and happy. The girl asked thoughtful questions, and he answered each with patience, enjoying her genuine interest. They spoke of the importance of routine, of understanding the needs of the animals, and of the connection between land, animal, and caretaker. Through these shared moments, the girl began to see the depth of responsibility the rancher carried, while he recognized her intelligence, curiosity, and respect for living beings. In the afternoon, they decided to explore a small hill that overlooked both the ranch and the surrounding forest. From this vantage point, the girl could see the extent of the ranch, the grazing animals, and the rolling landscape that stretched toward the horizon. The rancher pointed out landmarks, sharing stories of past seasons, the challenges of weather, and the ways he had learned to adapt over time. She shared her observations of the forest, noting how the trees, streams, and wildlife patterns had guided her understanding and decision-making. Their conversation flowed naturally, each learning from the other, building a mutual respect and appreciation for different ways of life. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, they made their way back toward the main ranch area. The girl's excitement and curiosity had not waned. She had learned so much, yet she understood that there was still much to discover. The rancher, walking beside her, felt a quiet satisfaction. He had taught her new skills, shared his experiences, and found a kindred spirit who approached life with respect, patience, and attentiveness. Their bond had grown stronger, founded not on similarity, but on shared values and mutual understanding. When they reached the edge of the forest, the girl paused, reflecting on the day. She was grateful for the lessons learned, the stories shared, and the growing connection with the rancher. He, too, paused, observing her thoughtful expression and recognizing the depth of her awareness and sensitivity. They parted with a quiet understanding that their time together was not just about work or learning. It was about forming a friendship rooted in respect, curiosity, and shared experiences. As night settled over the land, the ranch returned to its familiar rhythm. Animals rested, the wind whispered through the trees, and both the rancher and the girl reflected on the events of the day. For the girl, it had been an opportunity to expand her knowledge, to see a different way of life, and to practice her skills in a new setting. For the rancher, it had been a day of teaching, learning, and observing the remarkable abilities of a young girl who approached the world with thoughtfulness and courage. The stars began to appear, shimmering in the night sky, and the cool evening air wrapped the ranch and forest in calm serenity. In this quiet, both felt the presence of their growing friendship, a connection built on trust, learning, and the joy of discovery. They understood that more days like this would come, each offering new lessons, challenges, and stories. Each encounter strengthened the bond between them, highlighting the beauty of learning from one another and the value of appreciating different perspectives and skills. This day, like the ones before, was another step in a journey of understanding, respect, and companionship. Every shared moment taught patience, observation, and the importance of empathy. Each task performed together, each story exchanged, built a foundation of trust that would carry them through future challenges and adventures. The ranch and the forest, though distinct in their features and rhythms, had become a shared space for learning and growth, a bridge between two worlds connected by curiosity, respect, and the quiet thrill of discovery. As they each settled into their respective homes, she in the forest, he on the ranch, the lessons of the day lingered. The girl carried with her new knowledge, insights into ranch life, and a deep appreciation for the care and skill required to maintain such a place. The rancher reflected on her attentiveness, her intelligence, and her respect for both the land and its creatures. Both knew that the journey ahead would continue to bring challenges, discoveries, and opportunities to grow together, strengthening the bond that had formed naturally, slowly, and with genuine respect. In the quiet of the night, under the vast expanse of stars, both felt a sense of fulfillment. Their friendship, rooted in learning, curiosity, and shared experiences, had taken another step forward. It was a bond that honored the differences between their worlds, yet celebrated the connections that could be found in respect, understanding, and the willingness to explore new perspectives. The day had ended, but the story of their friendship, their adventures, and the lessons of the land and forest was far from over. The next morning, the rancher rose early, as was his habit, feeling the familiar calm of the land around him. The horses grazed peacefully in the fields, and the gentle sound of birdsong filled the air. The dew on the grass sparkled under the soft light of dawn, and the wind carried the scent of earth and wildflowers. He went about his routine with the same careful attention he always did, checking fences, feeding animals, and walking through the pastures to ensure everything was as it should be. Yet today, there was a sense of excitement, a quiet anticipation that he could not quite explain. Over the past few days, his encounters with the young Apache girl had grown from casual meetings into something deeper, a mutual curiosity and respect that had become meaningful to both of them. The girl awoke in the forest with a similar sense of expectation. The night had been calm, and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, creating patterns on the forest floor. She had spent the morning reflecting on her experiences at the ranch, how much she had learned about animals, land management, and the patient ways of the rancher. Her own skills, honed in the forest, had given her insight into the natural world. But today, she felt ready to take her curiosity a step further. She wanted to explore more of the ranch, to understand its routines more deeply, and to continue the friendship that had been growing steadily over the past days. When she arrived at the edge of the rancher greeted her warmly, his face lighting up with a smile. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. The girl returned the greeting, feeling confident and comfortable in his presence. Today, they decided to work together on a more challenging project, clearing a section of overgrown pasture that had been neglected for some time. The area was dense with brush, wild grasses, and small saplings that had taken root, and it would require patience, cooperation, and careful effort to restore it. As they worked, they shared stories and insights. The rancher explained how he planned and maintained different areas of the ranch, the importance of soil quality, water sources, and rotational grazing to ensure the health of the land. The girl offered her own observations, noting patterns she had seen in plant growth, animal behavior, and the signs of the changing seasons. Their conversation flowed naturally, a combination of teaching, learning, and shared discovery. With each branch they cleared and each patch of grass they tended, the land began to take on a more organized and cared-for appearance, reflecting their teamwork and mutual respect. By midday, the sun was high and warm, and they paused near a small stream that ran through the pasture. The girl knelt by the water, fascinated by the fish and insects that lived there, and the rancher sat nearby, watching her with admiration. They spoke about the interconnectedness of the land, the animals, and people who cared for it. He shared stories of how he had learned to read the signs of nature, anticipating weather changes or animal needs, while she described the lessons she had learned from her elders about survival, observation, and respect for all living beings. Each exchange enriched their understanding and deepened the bond that was forming between them. After their rest, they returned to the work of clearing and tending the pasture. They moved with a rhythm, learning to anticipate each other's movements and support one another. The rancher showed her how to safely handle tools, trim overgrown branches, and identify plants that could be helpful or harmful to the animals. She applied her forest knowledge, carefully observing the environment, noticing details others might overlook, and suggesting ways to protect the natural features of the land. Their combined skills complemented each other perfectly, turning a challenging task into a shared accomplishment. As the afternoon progressed, they transitioned to another important activity, caring for the animals. The rancher demonstrated the proper way to groom and check the health of the horses, how to notice subtle signs of discomfort or illness, and the routines necessary to ensure their well-being. The girl followed along, applying her observational skills and gentle approach, earning the trust of even the more cautious animals. She began to understand the subtle communication between caretaker and animal, the way tone, posture, and patience could make a difference in every interaction. The rancher admired her abilities, recognizing that her skills in the forest had translated beautifully to this new environment. Later, they moved to the barn to clean and organize the tools and supplies. The girl was fascinated by the variety of equipment, each designed for a specific task, and the rancher explained the purpose of each tool with care and precision. She asked thoughtful questions, eager to understand both the practical and the strategic aspects of ranch life. Through this, she not only learned new skills but also gained insight into the rancher's approach to life, his careful planning, attention to detail, and the quiet dedication that guided his daily work. As the day wore on, they took a break on a gentle hill overlooking the ranch and the surrounding forest. From this vantage point, the girl could see the land stretching in every direction, the pastures they had worked on, the barns, the grazing animals, and the distant trees marking the edge of the forest. They spoke about their dreams and aspirations, the challenges they had faced in their lives, and the lessons they had learned. The rancher shared stories of resilience, problem-solving, and the importance of patience, while the girl spoke of courage, observation, and the wisdom passed down through her family. These conversations revealed not only practical knowledge, but also values, principles, and insights that were shaping both of their lives. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the rolling hills. They walked together toward the edge of the forest. The girl led the way for a short distance, using her familiarity with the land to navigate safely, while the rancher followed, appreciating her confidence and skill. The walk was filled with quiet reflection, punctuated by occasional observations, a bird calling from a tree, a rabbit darting across the path, or the gentle sway of wildflowers in the evening breeze. Each moment felt significant, a part of the larger journey they were sharing. When they reached the boundary of the forest, the girl paused, looking back at the ranch and feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She appreciated the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to form a meaningful connection with someone from a very different world. The rancher, watching her thoughtful expression, felt the same sense of fulfillment. Their friendship, built on trust, respect, and shared experiences, had grown steadily, becoming an important part of both their lives. They understood that the bond they had formed was special, one that would continue to develop through time, effort, and continued interaction. Night settled over the land, and the ranch returned to its peaceful rhythm. The horses rested, the wind whispered through the trees, and the stars appeared in the sky, twinkling like distant lanterns. Both the girl and the rancher reflected on the day's experiences, appreciating the knowledge gained, the tasks accomplished, and the friendship nurtured. For the girl, it had been a day of learning, growth, and understanding, a bridge between the familiar world of the forest and the structured life of the ranch. For the rancher, it had been a day of teaching, learning, and observing the remarkable qualities of a young girl who approached life with curiosity, intelligence, and respect. The stars continued to shine above, and in the quiet of the night, both felt a sense of fulfillment and anticipation for the days to come. Their friendship had taken another step forward, strengthened by shared experiences, lessons learned, and mutual understanding. They knew that future days would bring new challenges, opportunities, and stories, each one adding depth to the bond they had formed. Every task performed, every observation shared, and every moment spent together contributed to a foundation of trust, respect, and appreciation that would guide them in the days ahead. As they each settled into their respective spaces, the girl in her forest home and the rancher in his cabin, the events of the day lingered in their minds. They carried with them new knowledge, insights into each other's worlds, and a deeper understanding of the values that guided their actions. Both knew that this journey of learning and friendship was ongoing, that each day offered a chance to grow, to explore, and to strengthen the connection they shared. The night deepened, and the land rested under the vast expanse of stars. In this stillness, the rancher thought of the girl's curiosity, her attentiveness, and her courage, feeling inspired by her approach to life. The girl, in turn, thought of the rancher's patience, skill, and dedication, realizing how much she could learn from him. Their shared experiences had created a bond that respected their differences, while celebrating the values and knowledge each brought to the relationship. This day, like the ones before it, marked another chapter in their unfolding story, a story of friendship, growth, and discovery. Every moment, from the smallest observation to the most challenging task, contributed to a shared understanding and mutual respect. The ranch and the forest, though distinct, had become a space where learning, trust, and companionship could flourish. Together, they had created a world in which curiosity was encouraged, knowledge was shared, and the beauty of forming meaningful connections across different experiences was celebrated. As the night embraced the land, both the girl and the rancher felt a quiet sense of peace. Their friendship, strengthened through shared work, conversation, and exploration, had become a guiding force in their lives. They understood that the journey was ongoing, that each day would bring new opportunities to learn, to grow, and to appreciate the world and each other. The story of their bond, built on respect, curiosity, and shared experiences, was far from over. It was only beginning, promising many more days of adventure, discovery, and meaningful connection.